Since 2012, Iraq War veteran Senator Tammy Duckworth has been a champion for Illinois in the Senate, but there is so much more to her story, and she chronicles her life in her new memoir, Every Day is a Gift. Please welcome back to the show, Senator Tammy Duckworth. Senator, so good to have you, and I love the title of a book because you say that every time you come on the show, but you really do mean that from your experience.
I do. Every day is a gift. It really comes from, we were trying to figure out what the name of the book, or title of the book was going to be. And we were like Mad Dog, because that was my old call sign. And we were, stronger and all that. And then I was done writing the chapter on my shoot down and talking about how grateful I am for my buddies who saved my life. Mm-hmm. And that every day since that day has been a gift. And the publisher's like, that's the title, that's the title.
Yeah, I mean, your life, not only is it a book, but it should be a movie, and I'm sure that's going to come as well. But let's talk about that, because it's a really intriguing story that everybody wants to know about, but we're always kind of scared to ask you about that. But 2004, you're in Iraq, you're one of the few female pilots at that time, and what happened?
We were 8 months into our rotation in country, and it was just a regular day of flying missions. It was during the second battle for Fallujah, although we were not in the battle. And what had happened was the bad guys had been flushed out of Fallujah, and they were flushed into our flight path. And at the end of the day, we were headed back to base, told to fly over this particular path, and we got shot down. The bad guys basically threw everything that they had into the air. And you know how you get a bunch of guys in a basketball hoop and you throw a bunch of balls at the hoop? One of them is going to go through nothing but net. Right. That's what happened. One of the RPGs landed in my lap and basically vaporized my right leg and took off my left and took off the back of my right arm. And as you can see, the pilot in command did a remarkable job of piloting and landed the aircraft and saved all of our lives. And every day since that day has been a gift.
Senator, there are so many people who would not be able to say every day is a gift after they look down and realize they've lost their legs. How have you remained so incredibly positive?
I just took it one day at a time. It would be a dishonor. It would be a dishonor to the guys who saved my life. In the book, I talked about how they thought I was dead and they were actually recovering my body for my family so that, they would have something to bury. And then it turned out that I was alive. And then they all started, pushing aid towards me and denying aid for themselves. And so how do I dishonor the sacrifices that my buddies made to save me by sitting around feeling sorry for myself? Yeah, that picture is, that is what was between my legs on the floor. It's all mangled. That's where the explosion happened. Yep.
So, Senator, how much do you remember versus what you were told from your buddies who saved your life?
I remember fighting to land the helicopter. And once we landed the aircraft, I remember trying to shut down the engine so there would be a fire. I knew we had a problem that potentially we could catch fire. So I was helping to do the emergency engine shutdown that actually the pilot in command had started. And then I passed out because I lifted my arm, and that was the last bit of blood loss that my body could take, and I passed out. Wow. Apparently, I woke up. And in writing this book, I went back and I was able to find doctors and nurses and medics who took care of me. They filled in the blanks. But apparently, I woke up in Baghdad ER and started giving orders, and was very obnoxious. And
what?
Our entire crew. I mean, my door gunner, Kurt Hanneman, who's from Peoria, was, refusing treatment, wanting them to take care of me first. And I was refusing treatment, wanting them to take care of my crew chief and of Kurt. And my crew chief was pushing them towards me. And finally, the doctors and the nurses said, we just put all of you guys under just to shut you up so we can get to work on you. Because we were all saying, no, my buddies hurt more than me.
Wow, so unselfish.
Yeah.
We always
I don't
want
know,
to say
Senator,
thank you.
if I'd feel that same way if this one went down. I think I want the doctors to come work on me first. You got a great sense of humor. We can laugh about that.
Pretty sure he's not breathing. Anyway, you've been so inspirational on so many levels. And in the book, you talk about not only your service, and thank you so much for your service, but also how you've championed a lot of different causes. You talk about motherhood. What was was there any parts that were difficult to reminisce on, or things that were difficult to think about and talk about? Your childhood, I know you talk about poverty and where you came from.
Yeah, I didn't. When I first ran for office back in 2006, I didn't talk about being on food stamps. For the first part of my career, and especially as a high school kid, I was embarrassed to be on food stamps. I was embarrassed to be on the school lunch and school breakfast program, showing up with my little ticket instead of $1 to pay, to buy my own school lunch. And as I've been in office and I've been working on hunger issues and childhood hunger in particular, I've started talking more and more about it. And so for me, it's more, the process was very cathartic. I got to talk about what it was like to have a high school teacher who fed me. I talk about the fact that this public school teacher, 3 or 4 nights out of the week at the end of the month, knew that these food stamp kids like me would be hungry and found reasons to keep us after school to feed us out of his own pocket. I mean, it was, a Taco Bell back then, 2 tacos for 99 cents. He'd whip out $10, 5 kids here, go get some dinner. And we thought he was just keeping us after school because he was disorganized. Turns out he was feeding us. But I'm not the only person who had a public school teacher who did that for them. That is a story all across our nation. And so for me, it was more about telling my story so that people would see their own stories in what I went through and say, hey, I had a teacher just like that as well.
Absolutely. Senator, we only have about 45 seconds left for this interview, but we cannot have you here without you addressing the attacks on the Asian community here in our nation. It has got to make you just so sad.
It makes me really sad because, we should be watching out for one another, and to have, an Asian American woman, and we saw that video where people just watched her get beat up. We shouldn't be doing that. We should all be each other's allies. I would do my part in Washington with laws, but we should all be each other's allies, and we should all be speaking up and stepping up when we see someone who is under attack like that. And I think we can all do better.
Yeah, it is so disheartening to see, but you said it right. We're all Americans. I wish we could all realize that, and we can all come together. And we're hopeful. We are hopeful, but we have seen a lot of this pandemic. We say it brought out the best and the worst in a lot of people. Senator, thank you so much. Be sure to check out her book, Every Day is a Gift, and her virtual event at Anderson's Bookshop on April 6th at 5:30. Register at andersonbookshop.com.